About a year ago, in August 2015, I came back home to the Philippines after almost 20 years of being separated from the motherland. That was June 1997. My brother Jeff and I boarded a one-way, 15-hour plane ride to America, leaving our tiny Philippine village behind for one of the most enormous transitions of our lives. Nearly 2 decades later, I was flying back to reunite with my grandmother, aunts, uncles, and cousins I've never met. To top it off this time, I was traveling with my wife, Shannon, her first ever trip to the Philippines. Anxious, excited, nervous, I was very much overwhelmed with a mix of emotions leading to that day. I was coming home. Someone once said, where we love is home. Home that our feet may leave, but not our hearts. During that very trip, I came to realize that though I had been thousands and thousands of miles away for years, my involvement in Kaibigan, the Filipino American Student Association, at the start of college, has made me feel at home. A home away from home. I'd like to share with you 4 stories, along with photos that I took from that homecoming trip. The first story is about identity. Coming home to my grandmother's house in Lipa City, about a couple hours away from the capital, Manila, after almost 20 years was a surreal experience. Growing up, I was very lucky to have had many fond memories in that very house. Vivid flashbacks brought me back to birthday celebrations that united family over adobo, lumpia, and many other delicious Filipino dishes. Daily 7 a.m. tricycle rides to the local private school. Waking up to the loud crowing of roosters in the morning. Running my grandmother's sari-sari convenience store with local fresh produce. And of course, rushing after school to play the latest Super Nintendo games, shipped via balikbayan boxes from the States. The house brought so much laughter and joy to the aunts and uncles that ran it while my parents worked abroad for better opportunities. It was only in June 1997 that an inexplicable wave of sadness filled this house when my brother and I joined our mother and the thousands of Filipinos that leave the country every day to start a new chapter in America. Up to this day, I know that departure has left a gaping hole in my relatives' hearts. Why did we have to leave? Was life in America just more rewarding than what we've had in the province? Did they do anything wrong? This homecoming had really truly meant much more deeply than I can ever explain. Looking back at that experience, I've always known how important it is to never forget your roots, to never forget where you come from. Upon joining Kaibigan back in 2005, this was one of the immediate lessons I gained from the organization, that I was always going to identify as a proud Filipino. The Filipino values of hard work, hospitality, gratitude, humility, creativity, and family, to name a few, have remained central to the way I live my life. Thanks to Kaibigan's well-rounded mission, I've embraced many aspects of my heritage that I otherwise would not have been exposed to. Dancing to Nakling and learning not to get my feet stuck between the bamboos, learning about the human rights violations in the Philippines, relating my immigration story to Carlos Bulasan's book, America is in the Heart, meeting a lot of lifetime friends. Indeed, no matter how Americanized I had become in the way I dress or even the way I spoke, Kaibigan has never made me forget where I've come from. My next story is about family. On my first day back in the motherland, I gave Inay, my grandmother, the warmest embrace, held her right hand to pay respect, and said hello with a big smile. She smiled back, started mumbling a few words, and then looked away far into the distance as she sat firmly in her wheelchair. I asked her about her day and what had she done. She didn't respond. She no longer remembered my name. She no longer remembered the child that used to run her convenience store. Alzheimer's has stolen her recollection of the people very, very much closest to her. My aunts, uncles, cousins, and relatives all know that taking care of our grandmother is hard. Some days are still fun and rewarding, and others are incredibly difficult and tough. But if there's anything I've always known growing up, family will always come together during the best and worst of times. At the age of 97, with over 5 grown, successful children and dozens of grandchildren, I think my grandmother would be very proud of the legacy that she's created. Reflecting on that story, one thing is clear. When you have family, you really don't need anything else because you have everything. I'll never forget the smile, the warmth, and kindness I felt when I first met Patrick and Marcel, who recruited me to join Kaibigan at Party in the Park. Do you remember the very first time you were recruited to become a Kaibigan member? Well, no matter how big or small each Kaibigan event, from general meetings to workshops to the showcase production, has felt like a family affair, providing everyone a place of belonging. You know, for me and my wife Shannon, our involvement in Kaibigan was so personal, it was so deep and so real, that when we got married 2 years ago, almost all 16 of our groomsmen and bridesmaids were affiliated with Kaibigan. I guess if Kaibigan as an organization had a different name, it would be Pamilya, family. The next story I want to share is about history. Lush wild forests, saturated green rice fields, waterfalls and rivers, majestic, pristine beaches, powdery white sands, all in unspoiled beauty. Spectacular views of the landscapes, villages, waters, and even unpaved roads where only a local can manage to ride a tricycle. Fresh mushrooms, corn, bananas, mangoes, coffee beans that grew right on my family's farm. From Manila to Palawan to Boracay, there was so much to admire during my homecoming trip to the Philippines. But when you look a bit closer, tucked away from a tourist vantage point, I remember walking by children sifting through mountains of garbage to find something to eat. The makeshift jeepneys that shuttled people like sardines to work and back. The cobbled together homes in poor districts just outside the capital. The thick black smoke that polluted the air. And families that sold flowers and crafts by the streets to earn less than $1 a day to be able to put food on the table. These notes in my journal, these realities, in many ways, reflected the country's history as both a Spanish and American colony. The continued divide between the poor and the rich. The remnants of a history of bondage, revolution, and redemption. It was through Kaibigan that I first encountered the powerful words, no history, no self. No history, no self. If it wasn't for Kaibigan, I would not have learned about my motherland's past. If it wasn't for Kaibigan, I would not have had the opportunity to hear stories of immigration, war, resistance, struggles, resilience, and triumph. If it wasn't for Kaibigan, I would not have read about histories that are often hidden, or sometimes even forgotten. If it wasn't for Kaibigan, I would have not truly known anything about what it really means to be Filipino. And without that, I could never really have known who I am. The last story I'd like to share is about charity, giving back. During my visit to the Philippines, my cousin got married to his beautiful wife. It was very important for the family to host a celebration, inviting most of the people that live in our village as a way to reunite our families, bring our small town together through food and community. It was a beautiful day, as I recall, as we enjoyed each other's company, stuffed our bellies, danced to the Nene song, and had children compete in karaoke singing Let It Go over a dozen times to win a Kit Kat chocolate bar and $100 pesos. In return, Relatives, neighbors, and friends invited us openly into their homes. They didn't have a lot of things, but their smiles, kind gestures, hugs, and kisses were everything. Looking back at that experience really reaffirms a commitment I made to myself that no matter what I do in life, I want to live a life of use to others. This trip that took me out of the comforts of my home, this trip that took me out of the comforts of a car that I can readily drive in the morning to a full-time job, has made me really realize the responsibilities I have for others. Every one of us in this room is so fortunate to have food, roof over our head, a safe place to live, an opportunity to pursue higher education, and even a platform like Kaibigan to make a difference. Throughout the 5 years I was involved in Kaibigan, the organization gave me so many opportunities to grow, learn, connect, organize, and build. I learned about my very own Filipino culture. I became agitated about the political conditions in the Philippines and vowed to support friends involved in organizations like the Portland Committee for Human Rights in the Philippines. I had the opportunity to help create a scholarship program as a pipeline for Filipino high school students. I met some of the most talented, creative, intelligent, and passionate people I know. Because of Kaibigan, I am better equipped as a young professional in my career field. Because of Kaibigan, I'm a better person. The organization has given me so much, and I've vowed to honor its impact on me by continuing to give to others. This means rolling up my sleeves and getting involved. It means getting off the sidelines, being a doer and not just a critic. It means contributing to a cause larger than myself. Before I wrap up, I want to take a moment to recognize our graduates, the class of 2016. Will each of you please stand up? Awesome. So great to see all of you. Congratulations. Not only are you graduating from this organization, but for many of you, you're also graduating as a first-generation college graduate, a student leader, a parent, maybe, an employee who juggled multiple jobs while going to school, a very visible and powerful Asian American, or Pacific Islander, a proud Filipino American. No matter how long it took for each of you to get to this point, I hope that you realize that this is a remarkable achievement. So may you continue learning, may you continue pursuing what you love, continue being connected to this institution and this organization, and continue wanting to change the world. So congratulations. Being involved in Kaibigan is a privilege. Looking back at the 5 years I spent in it, and now as a proud member of its alumni, I think about how my values and my life have been really shaped by Kaibigan, and I couldn't be more grateful. Today, as we celebrate another successful year for this organization, led by Patrick and Antonio, in the midst of remarkable reform on this institution, particularly the opening of a new resource center to serve the needs of API students, I hope that each of you will take a moment to look back at the time you spent in this organization. What has your involvement in Kaibigan meant for you? What is it in Kaibigan that has made you feel alive? This is the part that you'll have to answer in your own special way. But this organization has come so far in the past 14 years. I know that somewhere in your heart, you'll figure that out. Ever since I came back from my trip to the Philippines about last summer, I have not stopped dreaming about the time I'll get to come back. I can hardly wait to visit again. In the meantime, I am overjoyed in knowing that I don't have to go too far to find a place of belonging, a place that embraces my identity, family, history, and service, because I find that here. So thank you for being a part of my journey today. Thank you Maraming salamat to each of you for making Kaibigan our home. Thank you.